Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SPRX where today we have 3 more tracks from an act named Electric Falls. And if we switch over to here, I say this because I have previously reviewed songs from Electric Falls to the tune of Eternal Flame, which I think was a cover, Travelers, and Shattered. Today we have The Web as well as Time and Folded Wing, and we're going to listen through each of these tracks from start to finish, and we're going to hear what we think. And just to confirm, we have Brett Sislow as the producer and writer of the music, as well as guitar and bass, Kate Glock as melody, lyrics, and vocalist, and James Knoerl as the drummer. So let's go with The Web. Track number 1. It's kind of a wistful kind of tone to it, isn't it? I like that rise there at the end with the vocals. Great dynamic range with the kit as well. A great fullness to the tone of everything coming together in the hook. I mean, it's 4/4 triplets, isn't it?
The pace of the world is accelerating, and we're struggling to keep up with everything innovative. It's just troubling. We're lost in the world that we are creating, so we must adapt, not to be left behind, anticipating how long will we try.
All different time signature. But brief. Great inclusion of double kicks this here, I dig that. Sorry, that fill there was just absolutely just ballistic. That was phenomenal, dude. That was awesome, and I love it. Interesting tales of some of these vocal parts there, I dig it. Great bit of vocal fry at the end. Is it not the time to unravel the web? A smart line. We're going to talk about it more in a moment. Because I thought we were getting into the conclusion, but no, this is the per track sort of sub conclusion that we do per song. So this was the web from Electric Falls. I think it is discussing the way that technology, innovation, the internet, the web has gotten to a point where it really is dominating all discourse and affecting us in ways that we couldn't have imagined prior. And I think it's discussing not only just unraveling the web, what we're sort of like caught in, but also trying to understand, what really pushes the web to be what it is. If there are powers that are affecting our experience with the internet in ways that we're not aware of, trying to sort of understand how it's affecting us and the decisions that are being made from people in positions to influence it, how they are affecting us. I just kind of like the questions that are being asked here, like not in a kind of conspiratorial, like the world is out to get you kind of thing, but it's more just like it's an interesting age that we live in where we're having to sort of think about the precedent of that kind of stuff. So I appreciate that. One of the things I liked about this is, of course, the drums. And I know that there's more to it than just the drums. But what I think just some of the ideas we had with the wide variety and mixture of different, cymbal, kick, snare, and tom patterns, it was mesmerizing. Just all these little kind of main and sort of sub, ghost, notey kind of bits there. Wonderful fill transitions. That part in the final chorus was just so eloquent and so quick. It was spectacular. And as a drummer, I appreciate what we're trying to accomplish there. And on an acoustic kit, it's just wonderful. And it's a kind of a situation where already outside of that fill component, you can kind of tell they can really play. They're very comfortable with what they're doing there. Lots of exploration of different types of cymbals, and amongst that 4/4 sort of like triplet groove there. But then they just kind of slam it out of the park, and they also understand that they can't just have things full blast the entire time. There's nuance there. They're showing that they understand when things are appropriate. I think structurally it was fantastic as well. It was really interesting to have those transitions between the choruses and the verses and all that kind of stuff. It worked. That was seamless. But it was also that kind of time signature sort of concept we're working with in that interlude section there, where we have the focus on this certain words and the passage of that line, that sort of mini stanza, and then we kind of tear away from that again. And then we go back to our original kind of concept, and we're kind of pulling the listener back and by going back to how we changed things before. So ultimately, I just think it's a really stellar decision, and I think that it makes the most of the kind of proggy, kind of like hard rockish kind of aesthetic that the guitars, bass, and drums provide as a whole. And I mean, like, in addition to just the way it's structured, like 4 minutes 16 filled with nothing but solid riffs, like bass and drum grooves with the vocals on top selling the story, I think, in a way that is meaningful and has a great sense of kind of like context to it. It's also that, and I will talk about Kate's vocals, don't worry. It's just, I love to just how diverse the actual instrumental parts are. These interesting sort of choices for arpeggios and some of the guitar parts and stuff like that, not just working with major and minor, some sus and some like unexpected sort of chromatics occasionally, and the way they kind of rhythm delay and kind of like fade over each other. And then moving into a far more simpler kind of like harmony, arguably, in those chorus sections for the vocals to be more impactful at that point, to not sort of confuse the mood. And to switch in those time signatures again, that we had those changes later on, was fantastic. And it's just all these different ideas from musicians who are very capable that they amalgamate into a piece that's really special. And it's just like a stunning effort all around. So I really enjoyed this track. I think it's one of my favorite ones from Electric Falls so far. Now, this next track is Time. It's by Electric Falls. It is the drum playthrough. So let's listen through track number 2 for today. I mean, that can really play. mean, there's no post-editing on this. He can just really play his kid. I mean, it's just absolutely... Interesting panning of the guitar on the left there. I wonder if they're triggering the snare though. Not that I mind. Great use of strings in the background. I like the drama from that. So I'll go back a little bit so we can appreciate that. I forgot I had an alarm set. How is he doing that at the end with the kicks? No, he's just using singles. I thought he was going like doubles on each of the kick, like quadrupling kick it for a moment. No, it was doubling. That's cool. But yeah, that was fantastic. That was James Knoerl's drum playthrough of Time by Electric Falls. So in terms of what I think the track is about, if I had to kind of like emphasize some components, I think roughly it is based on the idea of us taking the most of, making the most of the time we have, trying to start again, allowing us to kind of feel like we're in kind of like the driver's seat effectively, and not allowing ourselves to kind of get taken advantage of or sort of torn asunder by the tides. I think, is what this is kind of going for, to have that kind of sense of agency and sort of self-awareness there. And I think that that's an interesting thing to make a song about that. I dig it. I think it's fantastic. I've already spoken about the drums in the previous track with the understanding that we'll be watching an entire drum playthrough. I want to commend James for the fact that they are able to put their acoustic drumming into this piece there and showcase it to the world. Nowadays, drumming more than ever can simply be a thing where if you know what you're doing and you press the right buttons, you can kind of get away with the odd little hiccup. Or if you're using electric drums or something like that, sometimes the entire thing. And you can fix it in post. With an acoustic, it's far less forgiving. And the fact that we were able to put our entire kind of focus and sort of like body into this is phenomenal. We played incredibly, we articulated ourselves really well. As you could literally see, we were exploring all of the various sort of symbols and patterns. You had like various splashes and crashes and chinas. It's a really big kit as well, with a couple of high toms, I think a couple of floor toms and stuff like that, if I'm not mistaken. It's just really well fleshed out, and we have a great sense of awareness of how to sort of interact with what's going on outside of ourselves within the instrumental backing, whether it's from the guitar, bass, or synth parts, or even the vocals on top. There were moments where we accented certain words from the vocalist in a way which showed a great sense of chemistry and awareness there, and it gave them more emphasis. And we also, I think, understood to kind of sort of like take ourselves back a little bit and allow ourselves to be a bit more kind of subtle and low key when there are other elements that were more sort of lead focused, like the guitar solo or the vocal parts there, like in the verses and chorus and stuff like that. We rose and came down with things when required. And there was just fantastic variety of different sort of like grooves and patterns there that I think made the song more special. But yeah, it was also just that we played incredibly well and weren't shy about it. So I commend James for that. Additionally, I just want to sort of give a shout out to Kate for the vocals on this piece. I thought they did a tremendous job as well. There was these soaring melodies and harmonies throughout there. A great use of double tracking for a bit more kind of oomph in the piece. Though the vocal fray that we did have in this one, as well as in the web, was just fantastic. They're clearly very comfortable in front of a microphone. I just really enjoyed my time with it. You know, like we hit the notes really nice and cleanly. There is a sense of emphasis and angst on certain components there, but like we never become disparate or detached from it. And we navigate all these interesting, so sometimes kind of dissonant or kind of caustic guitar patterns or bass or drum parts there with ease. And we have meaning there, and we make it matter. And we kind of like know when to get something more rocky and kind of more kind of almost percussive in sense with the groove with the drums, or when we're kind of, again, the chorus, so we're taking full flight and soaring forward. And I feel like we were authentic with our performance as well. We expressed it and emoted appropriately for what we're discussing. So that's very good. And then finally, I think it's like the subtle components that we had within this, like the use of, again, those synth pads and stuff like that for a bit of kind of drama. And like, it felt like we were going through a more sort of like spiritualist and ethereal experience because of that. It gave it a sense of like cinema or theater scope there, which I appreciate as well. I think instrumentally it was well fleshed out with no sort of like filler whatsoever. And it's just a really mature track for musicians that know how to keep things interesting for 5 minutes without being dull. There was great use of space there, dynamics as well. Things weren't the same loudness all the time. And in each instrument, I think as well, including the bass and parts, had their time to shine. And basically, like it was just a celebration, I think, of the musicians as a whole, as well as Kate on top. But yeah, I think we've got a distinct sort of tone and style that we want to kind of roll with here. We've got an identity that I can kind of follow along to in this point. I think that's a fantastic thing. You know, there's enough variety to keep it fresh, but it's still connected. But then we've got track number 3, titled Folded Wing. Let's go. Let's do it. Very different feel to the previous two, isn't it?
My dear children, you have blessed me. Every breath I breathe is for you three. The mystery of faith is that on faith alone we accept, believe. You have nothing in life to fear.
It's a little bit busy, but I kind of dig it.
Is clear.
Again, I think it's good to have the strings come back in here.
Now I write you because the challenge of this life might be too much to handle, and my motives might seem selfish for you. I just wanted to make you as proud of me as I am of you. I still see you and I still hear you. I never meant to leave. I still see you. I still hear you. Love binds eternally. I'm still here. I know you can feel it. Tear monkeys
Fantastic build to come out with. That was a beautiful song. I really appreciate the opportunity to have listened through it. Because that was a very different experience to what I've had with the previous two, Time and The Web. What I've been told, apparently this is a track about a mother's love for their children and how it transcends time. And you can get that from the lyrics. I think the sentiment there is something that people can get behind. And I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to that. I feel as if it was just sung incredibly well by Kate here. There was a sense of vulnerability shown there and a glow and warmth that I think suits the subject matter that we're discussing here. I think that it needed to have been done a certain way, otherwise it would have just come off as disingenuous. And we managed to avoid that really easily here, just because they know what they're doing. The notes that we hit were really well kept, and there were some times where we pushed, and you could feel the force of that before things came out at the end. And it was just stunning. Really stunning. No complaints whatsoever from my point. I think just generally speaking, it was just a really solid performance on the microphone. They were a great lead. I think another thing that suited this was actually the guitar playing, the finger-picked arpeggios on either side there, just enhancing the piece and kind of grounding it at the same time. I think if you'd had too many effects chains on it, it'd just gotten too misty. It would have just gone a little bit too sort of like otherworldly, you know. To have that sort of communicated separately by the strings there, the whole notes there to contrast with the plucked parts or finger-picked parts was just fantastic there. It fleshed out the frequency spectrum and stereo field really well without overcomplicating it. And I just think the chord progressions we had there was a real kind of beauty and passion behind it. But it was very gentle and kind and caring there. We stuck with a majorish feel for a lot of it in those inclusions anyways. And even if there were like a minor leading parts at some points there, it never had any harsh textures or edges there. So it never felt sort of like you were waiting for something to go horribly wrong, if that makes sense. I think that to kind of balance that harmonically there within the chord progressions and to have the vocals sit alongside that is testament to both the vocals and the guitars and how they were, as well as how it was written and how it was performed. And to have like the more intense guitars later on with distortion or overdrive on them, but to not have them on as heavy as previous tracks was a smart move, I think, because, well, for one, it just didn't get... I don't think it was intended to be a super heavy sounding track. I mean, like there was enough emotional weight to it besides that. But I think the final thing I want to sort of point out is that the way that things were handled in regards to the studio production, especially with the drums, I've spoken about the drums enough today. They know they did a great job. I'll talk about them at the end as well, but just like the production on this was fantastic. I enjoyed the quality of the vocal performance, how the guitars, bass, and drums were all polished in here. The synths being like kind of a warmth layer there, kind of coming in. The way that the track could breathe and was not too crushed. EQing, leveling, etc. fantastically done, nice and loud without pumping. It's just a really solid effort. So overall, 3 really fantastic tracks. I'm going to talk about them more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of these tracks from an act named Electric Falls, the Web, Time, and Folded Wing. We've got Brett Sislow, producer and writer of music as well as guitar and bass. So we've got Kate Glock, who does the melody, lyrics, and vocals, and James Knoerl as the drummer. And so I feel like they did exceptionally well with these three. I've previously again reviewed Eternal Flame, Travelers, and Shattered, Eternal Flame being a cover. No complaints whatsoever about them. I'm not going to talk about these tracks individually because I've done it for the independent kind of like mini conclusions, but these will be my overall thoughts on these three as a piece. So as per the last conclusion I gave, I continue to maintain that Kate is a fantastic lead on top of the microphone, very comfortable in their head and chest voice, never felt inappropriate, expressed themselves well, showed vulnerability when required. There was a glow and passion and warmth to it as well, but there were also some parts where there's like a fry and an intensity there that really kind of cried out. And I'm fantastic and thankful that Ed is fantastic, and I'm thankful that they have that range there to be able to operate that way. I think when you've got this kind of range stylistically, thematically with the vocal, with the music, you need that. So no complaints at all from my part. Commercial grade, very happy with it, stylistically appropriate, well done. You know, they sold the stories really well, and they integrated seamlessly with the rest of the elements within the arrangements. I think additional to that is the combination of the phenomenal drum play, and I know I'm basically glazing at this point, it's just incredible, but also, to be fair, the guitar solo sections like in tracks like Time, as well as, you know, like the quarter arpeggios and progressions and stuff like that we had, the understanding of how to layer all those things independent and together and kind of create this kind of emotional kind of harmonic nuance there, to allow ourselves to have so many different like riffs and ideas and different time signatures and key signatures without it sounding too proggy, without it inducing any sort of like weird kind of cringe on certain components there, without there being any filler. There was no point in either of these three tracks where I was like, this is acceptable or uninteresting. I feel like they were very well balanced compositionally. There was either like an up or down kind of thing or like a general bell curve that kind of filtered off at the end. And I just think overall, you listen to this and you go, what could they have done to improve the way that the songs and music were written? And I don't think they could have improved it. Granted, if they had not played the perform parts as well, it would have suffered a little bit. But there was absolutely no issues with that at all. Very competent performance all around from everyone involved. I think the synth strings and keys and stuff like that were a fantastic addition in certain tracks, I think, such as Time as well as Folded Wing. And I think they generally, they were additive. And there was no point where it's like, why are we doing this? Why are we adding this component here? It's confusing. Everything made sense. And so when you combine that elements there with performance and composition and the fact that the vocals suit those very well, you've already got yourself a pretty sort of like clear contender. But it's also just regardless of what we're doing within these performances, again, as I mentioned in the previous review of their work, it's the studio production. The vocals were handled eloquently and wonderfully. They're present in the mix. They're not overproduced because Kate can sing. But also the guitar, bass, drum, and with the various settings for the guitar with the clean, drive distorted, you know, Strymon reverbs and stuff like that, kind of like filters, effects there. The drums recorded acoustically, fantastic tightness to them without post-production there because they can just play. The bass, synths, etc. Everything put together and combined just sounded meticulous, and I've got no complaints about the way things were leveled, EQ'd, spread around the stereo filter. The dynamic range was fantastic on these tracks as well, and it's just overall really convincing performance. So ultimately, it's just what I want from bands and musicians, to be able to put music like this forward, and I'm glad that I had a chance to be able to review more of their music. I had a fantastic time with it. No other complaints on my part. So thank you very much for watching my review of these three tracks. Because yeah, I'm expected to give constructive critiques, but I just don't have any here. I think they're very solid. And I think that any changes they make should come from their own volition, as opposed to me being like, hey, subjectively, you should do this differently. That the fundamentals and more are adhered to, and there is some special stuff going on in certain components as well, which kind of makes it that quote-unquote X factor. But thank you for watching my review of these tracks from an act named Electric Falls titled Time, as well as Folded Wing and the Web, and hopefully you enjoyed them. If you did, please go show them some love via the various social medias and the YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever. Thought of crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.